Welcome to Newsbreak.
Glad to be covering these topics today.
Okay, so let's jump right in. This tension between President Trump and Elon Musk, it's really been heating up, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The dynamic there has gotten, well, pretty tense. Reports suggest a big flashpoint was that recent budget law disagreement in the Senate that seemed to, ignite things publicly.
The budget law. And Musk really didn't pull any punches, did he? I saw reports he even mentioned the Epstein case.
Yeah, he brought that up, though. It was noted there wasn't really clear evidence connecting the two in that context.
Okay. And Trump's response, how did he react?
It was swift and very targeted. He started questioning subsidies for electric vehicles.
Which obviously hits companies like Tesla hard.
Directly. And he even threatened pulling government contracts from Musk's other businesses.
Wow. That kind of threat must have impacted the market, Tesla's stock.
It did initially. There was a slight dip.
Interesting.
It shows that connection, right?
Yeah.
Political talk and market reaction, even if it recovered later.
And it's not just staying between those two. Congress is looking into it.
That's right. Some legislators are apparently calling for an investigation.
Okay.
Seems they feel there are, broader implications they need to understand.
Yeah, that theme of government versus tech giants seems to pop up a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's about tech used by the government itself, which can be controversial too.
Exactly. And a key example right now is the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA. We're seeing veteran protests cropping up.
Where are these happening?
In D.C., and reports say over 200 other cities as well, timed with the D-Day anniversary, significantly.
And they're protesting cuts, right? Pretty substantial ones from what I gather.
Very substantial. So besides the 1,000-plus layoffs back in February,
Right, I remember that.
the plan now is apparently a huge 17% workforce reduction.
17%, that's massive. How many jobs is that?
It translates to roughly 82,000 positions.
Goodness. When you see cuts that deep, you have to ask how those decisions are being made. Is that where the tech angle comes in? AI.
That's exactly where the controversy is. Reports mention this efficiency department, DOIE they call it,
DOIE, okay.
is reportedly using AI to pinpoint where to make these budget cuts.
Ah.
And there are big concerns about, the AI's reliability, the ethics of it all, especially since it seems to be affecting veteran health contracts.
Using an algorithm for decisions impacting health contracts, that raises some serious questions, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. You hear about potential algorithmic failures, lack of transparency.
Yeah.
It's this clash between efficiency goals and, real human impact.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, but still on government action. Immigration policy, there's a new travel ban.
Yes, a new one from the Trump administration. And it's quite strict.
How so?
Total entry restrictions on people from 12 countries, and then partial restrictions on another 7.
That's extensive. I assume that'll face legal challenges pretty quickly.
Oh, definitely expected. Immediate challenges are almost certain.
And judges have already been pushing back on some other immigration measures, right? Something about Harvard.
That's right. A federal judge blocked a specific rule, temporarily at least.
Which one?
It would have stopped visas for international students sponsored by Harvard. Harvard actually sued over it,
That he sued. Claiming what?
suggesting it felt like reprisal, basically. So, another example of these policies hitting legal roadblocks.
And beyond the big policy fights, there's the human side, too. The reports you found from Miami were quite stark.
They really were. Dozens of immigrants detained at an ICE center, mostly Cubans. They actually formed an SOS shape with their bodies in the courtyard.
Wow, an SOS shape.
Yeah, protesting conditions, protesting a potential transfer to Texas. It's a powerful image. There was a similar event in Texas about a month before, apparently. ICE hasn't said much specifically about Miami yet.
And you also flagged some individual cases that sound quite concerning. A student in Massachusetts.
Yes, an 18-year-old Brazilian student, reportedly detained by ICE on his way to school sports practice.
While going to sports practice? Why?
Initially, it seems they were looking for his father, who was undocumented.
Yeah.
The student was eventually released on bail after protests.
Okay, good.
But the details mentioned were tough. Sleeping on the floor while detained, not being offered a Bible when he asked.
And then those detentions in San Antonio, people being picked up right after court.
Exactly. That detail really stands out. ICE agents reportedly detained at least 9 immigrants, Venezuelans, Cubans, Colombians, just moments after they left court, where their cases had actually been dismissed.
Dismissed. And they were detained anyway.
Immediately, including, reports say, a mother and her young child and a young man sent straight to a detention center.
That's unsettling. Okay, let's quickly touch on the economy, the May job numbers.
Right, they came in showing some moderation. 139,000 jobs added.
Less than April.
Less than April, yeah, but it actually beat expectations slightly.
Okay. Any weak spots?
Federal government hiring was down. And manufacturing, too. Shows the recovery isn't really even across the board. There's still that background uncertainty, trade policy, recession worries.
The markets reacted okay.
Stock futures were actually up before the data. And Bitcoin's been rising, too, around $104,000 last I saw.
Got it. And a couple other quick hits. International trade.
The EU is apparently thinking about lowering tariffs on U.S. fertilizers. They're looking for alternatives to Russian supplies.
But they're holding firm on food safety.
Yeah, they made that clear. No compromise on their food safety standards in those talks.
Okay. And back to tech for a second. That AI controversy we mentioned with the VA cuts.
Right, the DOIE department using AI.
Yeah.
It ties into that broader debate about government efficiency versus, the reliability and ethics of using algorithms for these big budget decisions, especially when they hit basic services. Questions about algorithmic failures, transparency. It's ongoing.
But tech investment is still happening. LA.
Yeah, venture capital investment in Los Angeles tech is apparently increasing, especially in AI and some other sectors. And the Congressional App Challenge for 2025 just launched, trying to boost STEM skills.
Always interesting science updates, too. Anything catch your eye?
A few things. Evidence of maritime culture in the Philippines going back maybe 35,000 years.
Wow.
Native agricultural fields in Michigan dated to about 1,000 years old. A new form of magnetism observed. Nanoparticles that can convert CO2. Even AI being used to analyze biblical texts.
Fascinating range. And in medicine and health.
The American Hospital Association launched a campaign, #AHHopeFriday. It's against violence in hospitals.
That's a serious issue.
Huge. Cost over $18 billion last year, they say. They want a federal law to protect staff. Also, NIH research suggesting taurine might not be the aging indicator, some thought.
Interesting. Any legal or policy updates in health?
A court ruling stopped federal agencies applying anti-trans policies against Catholic groups. And there was a fuel spill cleanup at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore.
Okay. And sports, real quick. Formula One.
FIA is considering a special super license for a 17-year-old, Arvid Lindblad, possibly linked to Max Verstappen's suspension situation. Red Bull driver.
Boxing. UFC.
The Felix Stam World Cup in Poland just ended. And UFC 316 weigh-ins are done. Main event is Javelish-Fili versus O'Malley, the rematch.
Tennis. Basketball.
Roland Garros semis today, Djokovic versus Sinner. NBA news. LeBron James passed Michael Jordan for most playoff games with 30-plus points. And there's a WNBA game tonight, Dallas Wings versus LA Sparks.
Got it. Lastly, some society and crime stories that stood out. Florida sheriff.
Yeah, Sheriff Marcos Lopez in Osceola County, Florida. He was arrested.
Arrested for what?
Accused of ties to a massive illegal betting ring, apparently involving over $21 million. Governor DeSantis suspended him.
Wow. And that grim update in the United Healthcare CEO case.
Very grim. Alleged diaries from the accused, Luigi Mangione, reportedly surfaced. In them, he apparently admits acting alone and tries to justify it as fighting parasites of the health insurance industry.
Chilling. And the Boulder attack suspect.
Facing 118 charges now. Attempted murder, federal hate crime charges, too, for that attack on demonstrators.
We've certainly covered a lot of ground today, from, high-level politics down to very specific local incidents.
Indeed, quite a range. But you see the threads, don't you? Policy decisions, technology's role, how it all intersects with people's actual lives.
It definitely gives you a lot to think about.
Absolutely.
Considering the challenges governments face, what ethical lines are we drawing when using new tools like AI to make decisions that affect people's jobs and essential services?